Records in Super Mario 64 are becoming rare, with only 5 being set in 2023 so far. What's even more rare is for a single player to hold multiple records at once, and the runner we'll be looking at today not only holds 2 records, but also set 4 of this year's 5. On March 16th, Suigi would set the 1-star record, breaking the last-minute barrier for the category with a 6:58. And just 6 days later, he would set the first 14:30 record in the 16-star category. Today we'll be looking at the strats that make these records possible, what mistakes, if any, there are to correct, and what possible strategies could improve on these phenomenal times. I hope you enjoy today's video. Before you enter the castle, the game's first glitch is performed, Lakitu Skip. Normally, there's a small cutscene where Lakitu explains how the camera works that plays when you enter this hitbox on the bridge, but there's a narrow sliver that it doesn't cover on the railing, and by hitting a well-timed long jump, you can avoid the trigger entirely and enter the castle, saving 8 seconds. Immediately upon entering, the first major trick of the run is performed, the backwards long jump, or BLJ. The BLJ is a trick that allows Mario to build speed in a negative direction by repeatedly long jumping. Normally, when you start a long jump, Mario's horizontal speed gets multiplied. When going in a positive direction, the game has a hard cap value that Mario's speed cannot exceed, but when going in a negative direction, things are a bit different. To limit Mario's speed in this case, the developers thought that the drag physics they put on him when moving backwards would stop any speed gain from exceeding a certain value. But if you chain BLJs together, the speed multiplier exceeds the drag, allowing you to build speed indefinitely. The first one is known as the LBLJ since it takes place in the lobby, and it starts just inside of the door to the basement because we need to get out of bounds first, and the best place to do that is by ledge grabbing through a wall. On the stairs to the basement, the floor of the lobby is just beyond the ceiling. Normally, if you jump into a ceiling, the game would detect you're colliding with a wall and apply force to keep you out. But in this case, the hitbox for the ledge is large enough that Mario will enter his ledge grab animation and ignore the wall. This gets you inside the lobby in an out-of-bounds area where you start doing BLJs to build speed until you turn Mario to orient him towards the castle door. Then, with some more inputs, you get him up the stairs and through the 8-star door before dropping into Bowser in the Dark World. The reason this works is because Mario is moving so fast that the door's hitbox can't detect him as being in contact with it, because on one frame he's in front of the door, and on the next he's fully past it, so no collision ever takes place. You might be wondering why you can't do this setup on the large lobby stairs or the small staircases leading into Bob-omb Battlefield or Jolly Roger Bay, and that's because the central staircase is actually a slope, and you can't perform BLJs on slopes for physics reasons. The small staircases are possible, but the setup is so precise that it's almost TAS only, and if a human could pull it off, they would likely lose time to the current method. This brings us to Bowser in the Dark World. The level opens up with 3 long jumps, so you'll be in the right position for the first jump dive, but there's one particle we need to talk about, the dust that is generated when Mario's feet are moving. This is the most important visual indicator at high-level play, as it lets you know how close you are to being frame perfect when doing precise tricks. If you touch the ground for more than a frame, you'll see dust start to kick up, but with frame-perfect long jumps, you won't see any get generated. After the last long jump in the opening sequence, you need to intentionally lose speed, as there's a 5-frame window at the end where you can't do any input except another long jump. And once the buffer has passed, you'll hit a jump dive, but it isn't without risk. This jump dive happens at the very edge of the slope and will get you over the spitter onto the moving platforms. But if too many of your long jumps were late, you will be off cycle when you jump dive and fall between the platforms into the abyss, losing your run. Once clear of the platforms, you'll do a kick to preserve your speed, which the game also counts as a jump, so you can double jump before the slope and then triple jump into a wall kick. At the apex of the wall kick, you'll do a rollout near the edge of the first rotating platform, where the fun really begins. When you land, you'll want to do another rollout. Since it's moving, the platform makes contact with you on the next frame, which kills your upward momentum and puts you into a walk animation, where you land on the second closest platform and jump dive to the next section. All of the previous jumps and dives were done with precision to make sure you arrive at this point in the platform's cycle, since if you're too early or late, you'll over or undershoot the jump dive and kill the run. And if you paid close attention, the only instance where Suigi had any dust in this entire sequence was on the slope triple jump. The next section looks like some well-timed long jumps and dives, but it's actually a bit more complex than that. Because the direction you press on the controller is dependent on how the camera is oriented in the game, the camera needs to be adjusted frequently in this section. The requirements when you reach the next set of platforms are especially demanding, as you want to land on the front slope of this platform, slide over the edge and onto its right slope, then wait for Mario to enter his fall animation as he transitions to the next platform before executing a jump dive. On the correct angle, you'll rub against the pillar and land on the floor before executing more jumps and dives on your way to the pipe. It should go without saying that the optimization required for Dark World when running for world record is near perfection, as a jump dive a frame late or slightly deviated camera angle will kill a run. All of this was done for the sole purpose of defeating Bowser because we need his key to get into the basement. The fight itself isn't super difficult, as you just need to grab his tail and toss him into the bomb, where we arrive at the next major skip of the run, the side BLJ, or SBLJ for short. If you hit a successful SBLJ, waiting for you behind the star door is this video's sponsor, Enlisted. Enlisted is a new type of first-person shooter that combines PvP with PvE combat, where you take command of a customizable squad of AI soldiers and fight large-scale battles with hundreds of targets led by other players. Enlisted offers many different campaigns to play through, featuring unique weapons, vehicles, and equipment from well-known battles in World War II, and it's available on PC, Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 5, and the previous console generation. It has unique soldier classes with individual skills that can be customized, equipped, and upgraded, from soldiers with bolt-action rifles to engineers that can build anti-tank structures, and each campaign is so different that they feel more like individual games than a repetition of the same game mode. One of my favorite things about the game is how much detail they've put into the sound. No matter where you are on the battlefield, you can always hear where the action is, and with distinct sounds, you always know what type of danger is approaching. Play Enlisted now on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using my link and get a free bonus pack that includes multiple weapons, soldiers, and the premium account perk. And with that, let's get back to the SBLJ in Mario 64. The SBLJ is a difficult variant due to the inputs required. You'll need to start mashing slowly, then speed up your cadence while adjusting Mario's angle with the stick, with many attempts dying here, with Mario either crashing into the wall or never leaving the staircase to begin with. If you're successful, it gets you through the 30-star door, where there are 2 levels waiting for you, Dire Docks and Bowser in the Fire Sea. The submarine star in Dire Docks is required because the load trigger for the level itself is located in front of the Fire Sea entrance, with it moving behind the entrance after you complete the submarine star, allowing you to enter the second Bowser level. Fire Sea is another incredibly demanding level, and it's notable for containing one of the hardest non-BLJ glitches in the run, the pole glitch. Under certain conditions, it's possible for Mario to warp to the top of this pole, but the aptly named pole glitch has nothing to do with the pole itself. If Mario is below a climbable ceiling, the game keeps track of this in case he jumps up and touches it. But if you make contact with a lower ceiling while below a climbable one, the game doesn't handle the interaction properly and warps Mario to the ceiling he can hang on. While the glitch may seem straightforward, it's not the easiest to set up by any means. Leading up to it, you perform a series of jump dives into rollouts. A rollout occurs when you press A or B after diving, with rollouts also generating dust the longer you're grounded after landing. When doing a rollout from a jump dive, there's a 2-frame window to hit the input before dust will spawn. And to get into position for the pole glitch, you can't have any dust appear on the rollouts leading up to it. Factor in all of the camera adjustments, and you have a very demanding trick that's required at high level. After the pole glitch, Suigi has a clean execution on the rest of the stage and arrives at the second Bowser fight. You might be thinking that this fight is as simple as the previous one, but since Bowser slams the platform at the start, you need to wait for it to stabilize before his tail becomes grabbable, and there is a piece of tech that can be used to help with the throw. If you're waiting where his tail will be when the platform comes to a rest, You can side flip away from it, which will pull him closer to the bomb when the grab animation takes place. It's a small time save, but in a 7-minute run, every frame counts. Once defeated, you now have the key to the upstairs where there are 2 BLJs left, the one to get you through the 50-star door and the one to get past the endless stairs. The 50-star door BLJ may look standard, but it's quite complex, with only certain frames being viable for long jump inputs for it to work. You need a precise position at the stairs, then, on the first frame Mario clips inside of the stair, you want to jump again. It can't be done when he's on the stair itself, as it only works on the frame he's clipping inside of it. You'll want to do long jumps on these specific frames to ensure that the trick will work, with runners practicing using a metronome to get the timing for the inputs correct. The trick does have varying degrees of success. If you're off slightly, you can still make it through the door. But in Suigi's case, he hit the inputs perfectly, and his momentum carries him all the way to the bottom of the stairs leading to the endless staircase. This, and the previous BLJ, are the hardest of the entire run, and if done properly, you'll land in the chute for the final level, Bowser in the Sky. This is another difficult course with multiple sections being on a cycle, which means if you're using the fastest strats, execution is paramount, and no trick is more difficult than the first. TAS long jump. Previous strats on this level would run up the wall and jump to the spinning platform before heading for the rotating platforms. But a runner named Tanaka routed a strat thought to be TAS only so that it would be consistent for players. So let's break it down. When you get to the top of the runnable wall, you'll need to hold up left on the stick, as well as these 3 buttons all on the same frame. Then, as Mario completes his turn, you'll want to do a long jump just as you cross into the red section of the texture. While airborne, you'll need to hold down left on the stick and then press A, Z, and R at the same time before you change the stick direction to down and slightly left. All of this is done to save 1.5 seconds so you can hit an earlier cycle on the rotating platforms and get up to the next level earlier. If any of the inputs fail, your run will be over, but if you get through, there's just a few more tight tricks and another cycle you need to hit before you're at the final Bowser fight. This time, Bowser isn't messing around, and you need to throw him into 3 bombs. Any missed throw will lose about 10 seconds, and Suigi entered the fight 4.4 seconds ahead. Anything but perfection killed the run.
Yeah! Dude! Oh my god! I just broke a minute barrier, dude! Oh my god! Yes, dude!
With that, Suigi set the first sub-7 minute time in the category's history, breaking the last minute barrier this speedrun will likely ever see. He's only 6 seconds off of his sum of best, so there is time to save, and there are 2 big things that would make for a faster run. The first is cleaner setups and executions on the BLJs, with Suigi losing about a second to them. And the second is a strategy called frame walking that can be used in Dark World. Frame walking would save 0.2 to 0.7 seconds depending on your execution. It's very tiring on your arms due to the inputs required, especially if you're grinding it multiple times per night. But the bottom line is, without incorporating frame walking, Suigi's record will only be beat by a run that gets better setups for the BLJs. If the 1-star record wasn't insane enough, 6 days after he set the sub-7, he would set another huge record in 16-star that arguably pushes the limits of the category even further than what he did with 1-star. 16-star has all of the BLJs from 1-star except for the one in the basement, as that one wasn't known about when the category was created. So instead, players need to collect 15 stars to get Mips the Rabbit to spawn for reasons we'll look at later. For now, let's look at what stars are collected. To avoid dipping into other levels, the red coin star in the Dark World Bowser level is collected. This does require some new strats and makes the level one of the hardest in the route, but it saves time over doing a star in another world. The Dark World red coin star is particularly useful because the next level we're visiting is Whomp's Fortress, which requires 1 star to open the door guarding it. You might be wondering why we don't go into Bob-omb Battlefield, and that's because the series of stars we collect in Whomp's Fortress is much faster. For instance, in the race with Koopa the Quick, it doesn't matter how fast you get to the top of the mountain, you need to wait for him to arrive before the star will complete. And if we look at the total time it would take to get 3 stars in each world, we see Bob-omb Battlefield taking just over 3 minutes, and Whomp's Fortress taking 1 minute and 25 seconds, so it's clear why we skipped the battlefield. After the 3 stars in Whomp's, we head to the basement for 3 more in Shifting Sandland, then 4 more in Lethal Lava Land, before picking up another 4 in Hazy Maze Cave. This is the threshold of stars required for Mips to spawn, who is used to glitch through 2 doors so we can get the submarine star in Dire Docks. There are a lot of different things we could focus on here, but I'd like to direct our attention to 4 things in particular. Cannonless in Whomp's, Flyguyless in Shifting Sandland, the Volcano Star in Lethal Lava Land, and the Mips clips. Cannonless is a strat that's been around for a while, but it does have variants depending on your level of play. For Suigi's run, he used the Salt Cannonless version. Normally, you are supposed to blow open the wall by shooting Mario out of a cannon, but the hitbox for the star can be touched through the wall with a proper setup. Found by Salt and Ginger in 2020, this strat has some very tight camera manipulation. First, you'll want to enable Mario Cam as you're landing on the bridge. On the next frame, you'll try and line up with the 3rd coin in the row. Once you land on the coin, you'll need to adjust the camera again before jumping, and with some luck, you'll grab the star through the wall. This trick isn't foolproof, and top-level runners get it to work about 50% of the time, which means you'll be resetting 3 minutes into the run repeatedly. But if you get past this star and collect the other 2 in Whomp's Fortress, you'll then head for Shifting Sandland. The first star you get here is in the Talons of the Big Bird. Normally, you're supposed to climb to the top of a pillar and wait for him to fly over you as he's on a cycle. But as you've probably come to know, speedrunners hate cycles, so many different strategies evolved to save time. A common one is jumping on the Fly Guy and using its float animation to fly into Klepto, and while this is a good strat, it's not fast enough for a category like 16 star. So in 2020, a runner named Slippery Nip decided to route in the Fly Guy-less strat that saves 1.5 seconds, but at the cost of more demanding inputs. After sliding down the sand dune to build speed, you need to do a slide kick by pressing Z, then B in frame-perfect succession to conserve the maximum amount of speed. You may be thinking that the dust you just saw incurred Suigi some time loss, but this is intentional, as if you hit everything as fast as possible, you'll arrive at the top of the pillar too early in Klepto's cycle, and you'll have to wait. After 2 more stars, we jump across the hall to Lethal Lava Land, where the first star is a quick red coin roundup. But the second is the one we'll be focusing on, as not only is it my favorite star in the entire game, but it also has some of the most creative strats incorporated into its routing. Getting to the volcano is the easy part of this star, as your movement doesn't have to be frame perfect. The objective is to get the star at the top, which normally involves navigating a winding path around the interior, but for some reason, the developers thought it appropriate to include a lava flow that runs up the side of the volcano. When Mario touches lava, he takes some damage and is sent into the air while he vocalizes his discomfort. This was intended to give the player a chance to get back to safety, but speedrunners use it to climb the lava flow and avoid having to do 3/4 of the level. It's called burn boosting, and it involves manipulating the camera so that after 2 burn boosts, you land on the bridge with an angle that has you facing at the last obstacle between you and the star, the pole section. Except much like the pole in the Fire Sea, we won't be interacting with any of them. This time, it isn't a glitch. If you do a precise double jump off the bridge, you can land on the edge of the pole's platform. While landing, you'll want to do a kick, which if you recall, counts as a jump for double jump and triple jump sequences. So when the kick's momentum gets you to the other side of the platform, you can double jump into a dive to barely make it onto the star's pedestal. This may seem easy, but it's actually one of the hardest strats in the run, with the input timing being crucial, since when you land on the platform, you have a maximum of 2 frames before Mario's hit detection will force him to grab the pole. The strat saves over half a second of using the other strat that navigates the poles themselves. And after 2 more stars, we arrive at Hazy Maze Cave. There are 4 stars you need to get in HMC, one of them being the hardest in the run, the free star you get from Toad. Since it's such a short star, it's feasible to make every movement frame perfect, so while this may not be the most intense star, due to its length and minimal required moves, it is easy to lose frames if you're not careful. Once we get the 15th star, it's time to head back to the hallway with Lethal Lava Land and Shifting Sandland because Mips has spawned. When you catch him, he'll give up a star, but we don't need it because Mips himself is far more valuable. Mips can be used instead of the SBLJ to get through the 30-star door, but there's a regular door you need to get him through first. Normally, you can't walk through a door while holding him, but by placing him close, you can have Mips push Mario slightly into the door. Then, by doing a crawl grab, you can bring Mips to the other side. This is the standard method, but Suigi got lucky and was able to perform a strat that saves close to a second in his run. If you drop Mips to the far right of the door and then punch the door frame after you're clipping into it, the game will execute the punch and pick up Mips with the same input, using the rebound from Mario punching the frame to get both of you through the door. This strat only works about 10% of the time, so Suigi was fortunate, which left using Mips to get through the star door. Because it happens so fast, it's hard to see what's going on, but you jump into the wall for a bonk, then get pushed into the door by Mips. Once inside, you'll double wall kick to move the rest of the way through, and you're off to the final star of the run. Like in 1 star, Dire Docks is required because the submarine star unlocks Fire Sea, and going into this segment, Suigi was a single frame off of his gold split. Up to this point in the route, this was the fastest run by anyone ever. He nails the pole glitch and the Bowser throw, and he takes some time to wipe the sweat off of his hands during the cutscene before exit warping back to the lobby to head to the final BLJs. He nails the rhythm on the first one, then executes the endless stairs flawlessly. He's almost 6 seconds ahead of his PB, which puts this well on pace to smash the 1440 barrier. All he had left was Bowser in the sky. He arrives at TAS long jump. He had been replaying this section of the game through his head since he made it out of Fire Sea. He nails hard trick after hard trick. If his angle was off the slightest, the best pace ever would remain just that. He arrives at the final Bowser fight, where 3 throws are required instead of 1. Except this time, the first throw has a 3-frame window, and the second and third each have a 2-frame window if you want a successful throw. For the first throw, it doesn't matter where you land in the window, as long as you hit it. But for the remaining 2, you want it to be on the first frame of the window, or Bowser will bounce before he hits the bomb, and will be blown back to you in a further position, which loses time on the next throw as well, since you have to cover more distance. Suigi hits the second frame on his second throw, which means he's lost a small amount of time, but it also has implications for his third throw, as he now needs to hit the first frame. Hitting the second frame will cause another bounce and 1 second time loss, and a third frame hit will miss completely, killing the run.
$16 is dead. 16 star is f***ing dead! Oh my god! Oh my god! Ah! Ah! I just got a 1435! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! What? What the fuck? Oh my god! Oh my god! I can't beat that! I can't beat that! I can't beat that! I can't beat that! I literally can't beat that! I didn't make a mistake! I didn't make a mistake! There's no mistake! There's no mistake!
Suigi made history, breaking what could be the last 10-second barrier this record will ever see. And while he did declare that this was a perfect record, there are some spots he can clean up, and a few strats that could be implemented. So let's have a look at what the future of 16 star holds. Looking at his execution, there are 4 major things that can be cleaned up. The first was the LBLJ, where he lost half a second to the camera turning slow. This occurs based on your speed and how you're holding the stick when you perform the trick, so better execution could save time early in the run. Going deeper, we see that after he hit Fly Guyless, he missed a speed kick after landing on the pyramid. This is done to conserve speed, so he did lose a few frames, but it could have been catastrophic had he executed a dive roll instead, as it puts you onto the slope and kills your run, which can happen if you're holding the stick wrong when attempting the speed kick. 3 more mistakes that total to 5 lost frames are noted in Hazy Maze Cave. On the first star, he thought he had a bad angle, so instead of jump diving, he did a ground pound, which loses a single frame. And for Swimming Beast in the Cavern, he made a devastating error with a delayed input and got 2 frames of dust, with the last time loss coming on one of the level re-entries where he clipped the ledge. I almost forgot to mention that on selecting a star in SSL, he lost 0.3 seconds to hitting the input early, forcing him to reselect, as the game doesn't accept inputs on the selection screen immediately. The time loss just keeps piling up. In all, his run was extremely clean, but it's not unbeatable with current strats, and there are a handful of strats that have yet to be routed in, so let's look at what theoretical time save is left. There's a faster strat for cannonless where you long jump on the bridge and pray for success. The strat saves 0.7 seconds, but only works about 25% of the time, and runners haven't been comfortable getting out of Dark World Reds to pull a 1 in 4 slot machine, but it may be necessary now with Suiji's record. The Big Bully Star in Lava Land has a faster strat that saves 0.2 seconds, where you lava boost and clip onto the bridge instead of doing the lava boost onto the cage like Suiji did. But the faster variant is a lot harder, so runners haven't been going for it in world record attempts. And finally, in Dire Docks, runners currently do Chip Clip, a strat discovered by Chipgroove in 2021 that wasn't even known about by TASers. It warps you through the ceiling into the tunnel by punching at the right moment, but there is a faster strat. If you swim towards the wall and arrive at the clip in a certain frame of Mario swim animation, you can clip through without punching. It saves 0.7 seconds, but is wildly inconsistent as there's no reliable way to make the special frame line up with where you need to clip. But if a setup is found, this will likely become mandatory. That's all that's left to be routed into 16 star. With current strats, a perfect run could theoretically break the 1430 barrier, but it's more likely that one of the unrouted strats will be incorporated to push the run even further. Before we continue, don't forget to check out this video's sponsor, Enlisted, by using my link to get a free starter pack that will help get your squad equipped for victory in large-scale combat. Suiji wasn't content with these 2 records, however, and decided to make editing this video as difficult as possible, as he went on to achieve what can only be described as history-making. Remember how I said in the intro that only 5 records have been set so far this year? After his 16-star run, he set his sights on getting the 0-star record and PB'd 4 days later on March 26 with a 6:49. Later that same day, he cut 16 seconds off of that PB, putting him 6 seconds off of Kano's time. It was going to take some effort to grind a new world record now that he was this close, and on April 6th, he did just that, becoming one of 9 people to hold world records in 3 categories in the game's history, with a record that narrowly beat Kano.
3 out of 3! 3 out of 3 short categories. 3 out of 3 short categories. Would you look at that? Isn't that beautiful?
You'd think that with 3 records he would be content and move on to another category, but he was determined to perfect the category as he did with 16 star, and set out on a quest to eliminate the remaining 10 seconds of time save left in the category. 2 days later, he had a chance to cut 7 of those seconds, but he paused during the Bowser fight and lost 2 of them. And not being happy with only half of the time being saved, he pressed forward, and the result was a happy accident, as notable speedrunner Bob Ross would say. In 0 star, you do a slightly different SBLJ, so you get through the star door and the Dire Docks level entry and go right into Fire C. And Suiji was on pace heading to this trick to get the record he was looking for, but disaster struck, and he only built enough speed to bypass the star door. This kills a 0 star run completely, but since up to this point the routes for 0 and 1 star are mirrored, he decided to continue and do an impromptu 1 star attempt, and dropped that record by almost a second in the process.
That's 6:57. That's a 6:57, dude. Oh my god.
The next day, on April 10th, he'd set another 0 star record, lowering it by just over a second, bringing his total number of records set this year to 8. with 7 of them coming in the time span of just 3 weeks. He's currently putting the final nails in the 0-star records coffin before he moves on to 120-star. And I highly encourage you to go check out his stream with the raid message, "Gary was here, Ash is a loser," as he continues his journey to make speedrunning history. There's a lot I didn't cover in the 16-star record, and if you're curious as to how the rest of that run works, a little banana told me that someone is making a video going over the record in detail, so be sure to keep an eye on their channel. I'm currently running a free month trial on my Patreon, so if you enjoyed the video, please go check it out. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.